Well, everyone, it's time for us to take a look at the Google Pixel 6a and compare it against the Google Pixel 4 XL that came out in 2019 and see how both of them compare. Now, this is really interesting. This was a flagship from Google back in 2019, and now this is a budget phone from Google in 2022. And it's crazy to see how many improvements and differences there are nowadays and how much improvements there's been for budget-tier phones. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these, the links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, in the front of the Google Pixel 4 XL, we had a pretty decent 6.3-inch P OLED display. Now, this was a pretty good panel back in 2019. It was a 90 hertz panel as well, which was really cool to see. But at this point, we already had panels that were kind of improving there, especially in the bezel department. We had quite a bit of bezel on this device, which I don't think was a crazy big deal, but it is one of those weird things that Google kind of put this as a flagship, but it still had a little bit of bezel up top. Not a crazy big deal, but it is kind of one of those things to keep in mind. Now, on the Google Pixel 6a, on the other hand, we actually have a 6.1-inch OLED display. So I will tell you, I don't really think one panel is way better than the other one. The advantage of the Pixel 4 XL is that it has 90 hertz, and it's a pretty decent 90 hertz display. This one is pretty good for its size and everything, and for its price tag at $449. But you do have a hole punch display, which is really cool. The 4 XL had that big bezel up top. This one has a hole punch, which is really nice. And I will say also, in the build quality standpoint, I kind of think the Pixel 6a is probably a little bit better here. You do have a little bit of kind of the same type of layout for the most part. They're kind of curved, but they're kind of flat at the same time. So I think the Pixel 6a feels a little bit more premium. But the Pixel 4 XL still feels pretty good, a few years later. On the back, we have kind of similar layouts as well, a little bit different layouts, but the same type of camera. Not even the same type of camera, to be honest. We have glass backs on both and the camera modules. Now, the camera's technically on the left side on both, but with the 6A, you can kind of see that the camera kind of stuck through the whole entire side, which I think it looks pretty cool. On the Pixel 4 XL, on the other hand, you can see that we do have this little square edge. I don't really think there's an advantage for either one, but that is kind of something cool to kind of keep in mind at the end of the day. Now, with the 4 XL, we are also getting wireless charging. The Pixel 6a had no wireless charging, which was very weird. I don't know why they didn't put that on that phone. I feel like they could have supported it, but that kind of covers it up on the outside for the most part. Now, another big thing to think about is with the longevity between both phones. Now, with the Pixel 4 XL, one of the best things about a Pixel is that it gets support for a long time and it's stock software. Weirdly enough, with the Pixel 6a, but the big thing to keep in mind is with the 4 XL, I don't think it's going to be supported for that much longer. So realistically speaking, I mean, this thing is going to be supported for a little bit of time, but it's not going to be supported for as long, at least in my opinion, as something like the Pixel 6a. This device is going to be lasting much longer than the Pixel 4 XL. I think it's going to be lasting as long as the Pixel 6. And if that ends up being true, this thing's probably going to be here for the and if that ends up being true, this thing's going to be here for like several more years to come. So I think that's a really big thing to keep in mind as well. I think software performance and everything is still going to be about the same, but you are going to be getting a longer lasting phone from the Pixel 6a than the Pixel 4 XL. So definitely keep that in mind. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both of these phones. The Pixel 4 XL, the Pixel 6a had that Google Tensor chipset inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the Pixel 4 XL, on the other hand, has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one's a faster one between both of these. Okay, there we go. Let's go and clear the apps in the background. So this one has this open. This one is good to go. 6A is here. Pixel 4 XL is here. Let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. Okay, definitely some stuttering going on with the Pixel 4 XL. Let's get into messages 3, 2, 1. Kind of the same thing too. Let's go and get into camera 3, 2, 1. Okay, got a little pop-up here, so let's go and take a photo between both. Let's go and get into here. Kind of the same thing too, zooming in and out. Actually kind of the same thing too, so let's go and hop out of here. We do have some of these third-party applications, I guess not too many on this phone, so we'll get into it. Let's go and get into none of these that we don't have on both. Let's go and get into calculator 3, 2, 1. I think the Pixel 6a may have been a little bit faster there. Let's do Google Photos 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go and hop out of here. Let's go and get into another one, which can be Chrome 3, 2, 1. Okay, two different panels, but very interesting between both as well. Let's do clock 3, 2, 1. Okay, that one kind of covers it up there. Let's go and get into, so we do have the gestures not working there, I forgot. Let's go and get into Google Drive 3, 2, 1. Okay, that one kind of covers it up there as well. Hopping out, let's go and get into Files 3, 2, 1. Okay, Pixel 6a is looking to be a little bit smoother there as well. Let's go and get into Facebook, which I do not have here. So we can go and get into another one like Google 3, 2, 1. Okay. A little bit slower on this phone, but it's not like that crazy big of a deal in my opinion. We can load up their Play Stores 3, 2, 1. Okay, we can see right there the Pixel 4 XL was also a little bit slower, but it's not a crazy big deal, but it is one of those things to keep in mind. Also, one thing I've noticed, the Pixel 4 XL does have a smoother display, but it's not even that crazy big of a deal, to be honest. With this specific game, well, I wanted to go ahead and try downloading the same exact game between both, so we can go and try like Call of Duty Mobile right here, and we can click install. This is a big game, but it's not, I don't think it's going to take too long to install. I clicked install at the exact same time, and it is actually a massive game. So we'll just load that one up in the background, but it does look like the Pixel. Actually, they're both kind of the same thing. Let's go and cancel this one. Let's go and download TikTok instead. 3, 2, 1. Now, this has a lot to do with Wi-Fi speeds and everything, but also there's a little bit to say if one, is able to download one faster than the other one. You can see that the Pixel 4 XL is able to start downloading this one faster than the Pixel 6a. So again, maybe something to keep in mind. And the Pixel 6a did actually end up installing this application faster than the 4XL. Installing the application is where the big thing, kind of happens. That's where the phone's resources come into play. Let's go and open it up. 3, 2, 1. Almost the exact same thing. We are getting a lot more pop-ups on that phone. Almost the exact same type of layout here in my opinion as well. So when it comes down to it, I think the Pixel 6a is probably the faster one, but the Pixel 4 XL did a tremendous job in my opinion. And for it being as old as it is, it's not a severely old phone, but for being older than the Pixel 4 XL, it is actually doing a pretty good job competing up with it. And again, to remind you, this is a budget phone. This one right here, the 6a, is a budget phone from 2019. The Pixel 6 is a budget phone of this year. The Pixel 4 XL is the flagship of 2019, so we're getting really good budget phones right now. So that kind of covers up in the speed performance standpoint. In terms of the cameras, kind of a little weird thing too. So both of them have dual camera setups, but they are completely opposite. The Pixel 4 XL had a wide and a telephoto lens, where the Pixel 6a had a wide and an ultra wide sensor. So kind of complete opposites. We can do 1080p videos on the front of them, which is kind of L to be honest. We can do 1080p on the front of both of them, which I'm not really happy about. But on the back, 4K at 60 on the 6A, only 4K at 30 on the 4XL. So on the flagship of 2019, we could only do 4K at 30. That was a really weird thing that Google did, especially for a phone manufacturer who like focuses in on the cameras. That was like one of its biggest selling points. It was not a big selling point for this specific year. Now, I do like the fact that we can go ahead and zoom in a lot into these photos. However, I would think it would have been really cool had we had an ultra-wide sensor. Ultra-wide sensors are like the main things nowadays, and I'm surprised Google didn't throw it in here. In terms of the video modes and all this stuff, we have a lot of stuff here. If we go and click the drop down at the top, I mean, we have a lot of cool things. So we have like, the standard stuff as always. We can do like HD videos and everything. But again, we don't really get that 4K at 30. We only get 4K at 30. We don't get 4K at 60. And I feel like Google could have actually improved that. It's funny, they put 4K at 60 here, but they don't really allow it. They only do 4K at 60 on, they only do 1080p at 60 there. With the Pixel 6a on the other hand, I think it's a pretty good improvement from the Pixel 4 XL, to be honest. This phone, on the other hand, has a really decent camera setup for its price tag. For $449, I think Google did a pretty decent job with this lens. It's not the exact same as the other cameras, it's not the same as a 6, but it's still a pretty good camera. You have video modes and everything like that. There's not a lot of modes or a lot of options we can modify with these phones, but we still have a lot of capability built in, and I'm actually pretty happy about it at the end of the day. So in terms of that kind of covers up exactly how I feel about both these phones. I think the Pixel 6a is probably the better one here, which is pretty crazy to think about because this is the budget phone. This is the phone that, realistically speaking, shouldn't be outbeating, a lot of phones that it is. But I think Google did a pretty good job here, and I think overall this is a pretty good budget phone. I think there's still some areas where the Google Pixel 4 XL kind of wins at. I think specifically with the build quality, it's not better, but it feels like a little bit heavier, which I kind of like. I think the build quality in the Pixel 6a is way better though. You are getting that 90 Hz panel, which is really cool. We do not have a 90 Hz on the 6a. We also have wireless charging on this phone, where the Pixel 6a doesn't have it. But even with those things considered, I still think the Pixel 6a is the better phone here overall. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.